After years of bashing React server components, it looks like the React Router/Remix team have finally caved in because they've recently released a preview version of server components working in React Router. Now, you may be wondering what that means for Remix, but it looks like they've ditched React altogether in favor of their own custom renderer. More on that later, but now let's go through a demo of server components working in React Router. Oh, and trust me, you're going to want to hit the subscribe button. So here is a super basic project with a horrible choice of font using server components in React Router. And you can download this project from here and try it out for yourself. Shout out to Jacob, who actually got a mention from Ryan in this blog post. But here we have a home and about page with super fast navigation. We have some data down here coming from the homepage loader, which we'll go through later. And we have a server action. So if we type something into here and click on this button, it will show up here, but it will also be logged in the server, which is really cool. But how is this all implemented? So all the code is being served by an Express server, which is importing React Router via a virtual import, serving static files, and actually using React Router down here. And that's pretty much it. Speaking of virtual import, this is a parcel feature, and the whole app is built on parcel instead of Vite because Vite doesn't support server components yet. Now, from here, my assumption is that it goes to the routes.ts file, and this is a file that routes to specific pages based on the route in the browser address bar. Now, this routing is all happening on the server, which is different from the way React Router usually does it on the client. Then there's the route.tsx file, which contains the layout components for all the pages. It also contains a server component, which I'll come back to later, and it has an error boundary. And if we scroll to the top, we can see it's actually using some unstable middleware. Now, this type of middleware in the root file can actually be used for batching and caching. But in this case, it's running some console logs and then running this provide function, which I'm not going to pretend I know what it does, but it's passing a map with the text hello world as an argument and then returning the response. This is actually part of the loader data message that we see over here. Now, going back to the server component exports, this is convention in React Router for exporting a server component, which is instead of doing a default export. From there, the route is used to handle two components or pages. The about page, which is just a simple React component that has the server component name, and the homepage, which has a homepage client component, and we have a homepage action. So this is the code for the homepage with a loader at the top and a server component over here that contains most of what is rendered in the browser. So the H1, the paragraph text, the H2, and the form down here. Now, for client-side React Router, the loader was the code that would run before the component is rendered. And it looks like you can do the same thing on the server. So in this case, originally, it was grabbing the name value from the URL query params and passing it into the server component function. But that didn't seem to work, so I've tweaked it to actually get the name from the server actions, which we'll look at later. But what it's doing is it's getting this string context, which I believe comes from the middleware in the root.tsx file, and it's putting that in the message value, and it's getting the name from the form and putting that in the name field. Let's take a look at the form to see how server actions work. So we've got the loader name as an input placeholder, and here is the server action that's passing the name into this function. And it seems to be just getting the name and printing it to the console, as well as adding it to a value up here. This is my edited code, which is returned in this function. And this has a use server directive to indicate that this code only runs in the server. Now, if we scroll down a bit inside this form, we have this pending button, which is a client component, so it only renders in the browser, and it simply shows the pending text when clicked to indicate that the form is being submitted. So if we type something in here and hit log to server, it says pending and then updates all the values. Cool, this works really well. Now, I appreciate that this is a really simple project, but if you want a more real-world example, then check out the React Server Components movie site by the man himself. But for something that's in preview and not yet ready for production, this is already really promising. I mean, compared to Parcel's implementation, I kind of prefer React Routers. But Remix, however, is most likely never getting server component support, And I wouldn't blame you if you thought Remix was dead because of the whole React Router 7 thing, but trust me, they are working on a version 3. And based on this blog post, it looks like they're building their own renderer because React is too complicated. Now, this is a forked version of the original blog post, which was taken down, but I'm sure they'll have a lot to say about this new direction later on this year at Remix Jam. But until then, we'll just have to sit tight and watch Ryan's Twitter feed like a hawk. Well, maybe not that closely.